Hi, welcome, Max. Good to see you. How's things with you?
Hey, Anil, good to see you too. What would have been interesting, but it is uncontrollable at this point in time, is to have physically sat and had a coffee with you. Anyway, coming back, I'll tell you what has been exciting for us. We were all pushed into the challenge of getting a notice, which was very short, right? Our Honorable Prime Minister came in at 8 o'clock in the evening and said, hey, we're shutting down. So unlike most advanced economies and countries where it was France or Canada, they were all given a 3 or 4 day window. But what is interesting is in Assemblage, and that's why it's called Mad Assemblage or Mad Max, is the way I have. It's not now. It's not because of Mad Assemblage. Even in my previous avatar, when I was running a studio, the magic word is enjoy. The magic word is come and have fun. The magic word is not watching your clock and watch and saying it's a 9 to 5 job. So it's critical and it's important that if you follow certain practices, for example, I have never in my last 40 years of my career, last 20, 30 years in the animation space, I don't think I have ever given a pink slip to anybody or fired anybody in terms of talking or arguing with somebody. I've never screamed at anybody. So the culture and I don't think anybody on this earth can say that, hey, Mad Max, you were dirty and you were nasty and you were kind of angry. And so the culture in Mad Assemblage is really mad in the sense we enjoy. We walk in, there is no cabins. I mean, we don't have luxury of those glass offices. I walk around freely. I in the last 3 weeks, I engaged myself with pleasure, not out of duty, to speak to every artist who's been engaged with Assemblage, including people who have left us, just to make sure that the industry by large is in a good state and a good health. So I spoke to all the couple of hundred people who have been working with us, their families, and the good news is not only the artists across Assemblage are in a healthy state, the good news is I haven't still got information from the entire industry, be it our friends from Maya or DQ or Double Negative or Technicolor, that people have fallen sick because of COVID, which is good, which our entire force is ready, live, kicking to go back and bounce back when things normalize, or even otherwise. I think people have started working and sending stuff to the clients.
Fantastic. So in terms of, the past, let's say, month, what have you been busy with in terms of, and I believe you had a big delivery to give to a large streaming platform. How is that going?
So we did deliver a show, and it gives me immense pleasure to inform all our industry colleagues that Chico Bon Bon, a Netflix original, is going on air on 8th of November. Though it's a preschool show, I'm extremely proud because it really shows that preschool show demonstrates the passion, the commitment, the love that every artist, put into that show. And it is visible. It is visible in the show. So the official trailers are out. It's in public domain. And yes, we did deliver a show in our recent, few weeks ago, and it's going to be seen by the world.
Fantastic. So, what have you been busy with apart from that? I mean, how have you been functioning?
So we have a fairly respectable order book that we've been servicing our clients. So as I said at the beginning, we had very limited time to execute or implement what is called as work from home. So the short notice was not good enough. I don't think as a country we were all really ready and prepared to kind of execute. And especially in our industry, in animation, it's not easy. It's not a laptop that somebody takes home, right? It's a graphics card, graphics machine, high-end tools. So it took us about a week to strengthen the backbone or the back office and the pipeline to make sure that we implemented, we send the right data to our teams. It is not that a modeling guy gets files of animation. So it's also important that we make sure that we plan, we kind of schedule, we know what we're going to kind of get into. And we engaged ourselves in testing a tool called Teradici, which is working fantastically well. Now, we didn't have the pleasure of using it earlier, unlike many other studios globally, which have experienced Teradici for many decades, maybe. But Assemblage is very happy in terms of exercising and utilizing these tools now, because it is pretty effective. So it took us about a week to set up the work from home infrastructure. There were logistic issues, but we have been able to successfully begin work, upload work to all our clients, getting approvals, regaining confidence that India is not going to close shop. India is bouncing back with work, is supporting and respecting the customer's needs and wants. So it's a good sign. I mean, I'm seeing it all very positive.
Fantastic. So, but in terms of your guidance to your shareholders and your investors, are you going to be meeting your targets for the year?
Yes.
COVID going to be?
Absolutely. We are bang on. We would probably surprise them by a little more than what we had promised. And way forward, because March 20 was not much of a challenge, right? We were almost there. It was the middle of March when we got to know that, things are going to be at a complete no-no kind of a stuff. So except for a marginal correction, I think we hit our numbers for March. Going forward, financial year 2021, as we speak, the first month of the first quarter, is getting over, but we have delivered what we had promised to our clients for the month of April. So the milestones are bouncing back, and we will be able to meet our expectations for 2021 in spite of the challenges that we are facing.
And the cash flows are similarly healthy. Your clients are able to pay you on time, or are there delays in that area?
There are delays. But having said that, as I said, cash flows it's a different animal as compared to the revenues. So even with a good order book, you can temporarily get what is called as a working capital facility and a near term or a short term kind of a working capital support. And the government of India has also been pretty active in that. I've enhanced by 10% on the working capital limits. So there is a delay, obviously, because it took us a few weeks to set this infrastructure going. But now that the uploads are happening, our milestone payments, will be visible from wire transfers from our clients.
Fantastic. So your Little Man show, how is that going? Little Asur and Walk of the Earth?
Oh, very good. In fact, what is exciting at this point in time is, though we were really focused on servicing most of our overseas clients all these years, and we did invest small amounts into developing our own IPs, be it The Common Man or Walk of the Earth or Little Asur. What is interesting is things like The Common Man and Little Asur will be in greater demand, because at this point in time, apart from servicing, need for providing content, even for domestic markets, is going to be the call of the day. So we're going to really ramp up, step up, scale up, and make sure from the house of Assemblage, there is going to be shows that the Indian audiences will also see.
Yeah, Common Man show was supposed to come out in July 19. That's something that you kept on pushing forward.
Yeah. So Common Man has progressed significantly, Anil, in the sense it takes time in terms of what is called as an announcement and what is called as an artistic development, in terms of building the family of the Common Man, in terms of other character designs, the sets, the locations, the story. So we've had very interestingly, just like your House of Simpsons, we've had development of the family going around of the Common Man, the character designs. We have engaged ourselves with about 6 or 7. We have a writer's room where we have writers coming in, kind of pouring in ideas and scripts. We have the first few episodes ready. We have the art for the first 13 episodes, the sets, the backgrounds. So they're all have been in development. And we have deliberately still not seriously gone and pitched, because we want to get it right, because we don't have too many chances. We'll just get one chance, because Common Man is an iconic property and I can't mess it up.
So what tools are you using? Are you using team viewers? What are the tools you're using to ensure that the work is being done right, that the supervisors are seeing what's going on?
So there are, quite a few, apart from your standard protocols that we have, we are also using one of the industry well practiced. It was not such a practice in India earlier, but we're using Teradici, which is kind of facilitating remote high-end because it's actually pixelating stuff. So, in terms of uploads, it's a lot easier. The secrecy is maintained. So Teradici is one of the stuff that we are, engaged in terms of using.
That is in terms of file sharing or in terms of remote working?
Both.
Okay.
It is both, yeah.
What about, supervising the work that's being done by, let's say, a team? How do you
Yeah, so supervisory, so there are uploads. Earlier, what used to happen was within the studio, when there are physical premise, when you're operating in, the supervisor would either walk to the desk or the artist would come into the supervisors and go on to a central storage and show the particular thing for approval at this point. And then the uploads would happen on a daily basis. So there were dailies with clients. Okay. The dailies with clients continue, but there are two dailies. So the daily happens from an artist to a supervisor through Google Chats and, through, whether it's a Skype or whether it's a Zoom or any of those, audio visuals that we go. So he uploads it, they have a discussion. If an animation supervisor have to demonstrate acting, so there is a visual medium like you and I are talking at this point in time. I mean, technology has become more and more user-friendly. So the dailies happen between the artist and the supervisor at a remote level. So it is a modeling change that one needs to give, or an animation change, or a layout change. So each one of them goes through the same standard quality control that we practiced in office. So there is one step because there is a remote distance, but the practice and the operations are absolutely identical.
Fantastic. And what, you're using different tools for this, different from Teradici?
No, we have our own proprietary, tool for the, production management system. We are not using the standard tools that are otherwise available, like Shotgun, but we have tools. So we have a tool called Atom, which is indigenously developed, but it interfaces with Shotgun and other related production, softwares that are available in public spaces. So, and within those, there are controls. So the entire production pipeline is on a proprietary tool, but interfacing with tools like Shotgun and others.
Yeah, but getting workflow replicated in remote working calls for challenges and pipeline.
No, so the pipeline hasn't changed from that perspective. We are using exactly the same pipeline, which we're using in-house. The steps that are involved is only one more, where the supervisor who could address a particular team in a larger thing probably is able to address 4 or 5 or 6 people at a time rather than addressing 20 artists at a time. So when he does the briefing, he probably breaks it down in terms of, so there is one step but otherwise operationally it is identical. It's the same.
Okay, fantastic. So how do you think the rest of the Indian animation industry has been impacted?
I think, the impact is multiple, right? The good thing is, I don't think from a health perspective, I don't have any information otherwise that anybody is ill in the animation sector, which is a good thing. Humanitarian, it is kind of affected largely because of the economic scenario, where the artists or the current month and the next few months have to dip into what is called as a potential earning, which otherwise they were. But I think from what I hear, we are all bouncing back. I don't think there is a sense of fear, or there's a sense of delay. There's a sense of challenges that we need to face, but not in terms of a complete closure. So the slowdown has moved into momentum, and I think all of us, each one of us, are irrespective of the genre or the sector, which is gaming or visual effects or animation. I think each one of us have bounced back in terms of connecting with our customers, uploading to our customers, and it is a healthy scene. I mean, I can still very clearly and positively visualize a cliche that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, but VFX people seem to be the VFX teams seem to be a little withdrawn, and they seem to be actually bogged down by the fact that productions are not happening. and that's a
Yes.
challenge. Whereas animation is not involving humans in the sense of on screen where you have to play, with, unless it's stop
Relatively,
motion or something like that. But
absolutely. You're absolutely right, because it's commonsensical, right? So unless and until you have live action shoots happening,
yeah,
there cannot be work on that, right? So whatever whatever work you've banked so far is what the visual effects companies are finishing those kind of backlog or
yeah, but they're
the
not as
stock.
busy. They're not as busy as they were earlier.
Absolutely, because there are no live action shoots in Hollywood, in Bollywood, in Tollywood, in any of the woods, right? So there are no physical, even television live action shows have kind of come to a
Oh,
complete
in
halt.
Australia, the first shoot has started in Australia.
Correct,
Neighbors,
correct.
show started
That,
called Neighbors.
that's right. But again, relatively, it's much smaller in size compared to what
Absolutely.
Hollywood or Bollywood does, right? So there is going to be an impact on the within the AVGC sector. There is going to be an impact on the visual effects guys. But you know what? There are going to be ways. There are going to be norms. There are going to be ways of adapting, because the biggest thing that any of these recessions and depressions have thrown challenges to mankind is we innovate and we find a way to bounce back, and we bounce back well. So it's a question of time.
No, but
Unfortunately, none of us could.
this is the worst the world has gone through in the
It
past
is,
100 years. 2008 seems like a picnic.
without a doubt, because this is something which I'm a 60-year-old man, and I haven't seen one in my life. My dad is 90, and I don't think he has seen one in life like this. So this is certainly, as I said,
No, I mean, but economically, as well as the finances of
exactly.
companies. So, are we seeing that impacting your firm and other firms in India in terms of having cutbacks because the media sector is bleeding? And there have been, different unions which have written to the government. They've actually filed a plea with the Supreme Court asking media companies not to lay off people or explain why they're lay off people. The Supreme Court has sent a notice to the government to respond to it, not to the media companies, because the media companies have seen their revenues vanish to the tune of 70%, 50%. Print is gone almost. You don't get print newspapers anymore. It's all digital. And on the other side, the digital guys are losing revenue because there's too much pressure on advertising in terms of clients and not having products to sell. TV channels are not having enough advertising. They're selling at far below rates than before the COVID crisis. So the media sector is really bleeding. And, as it is before the COVID times also, budgets for animation studios had been cut for local IPs, which they were producing for the channels. So do we see further cutbacks on the side, since the channels aren't earning enough? And do we see further cutbacks in salaries? Do we see layoffs happening? I believe if it continues for another 2 months, that's my belief. I may be wrong. It's going to be a bloodbath. It's already been bad in companies like Times of India, where they laid off 50 people overnight.
Well, the answer is yes, because I don't think any of us, whether the government or the entrepreneurs or the MSMEs or small-time guys, none of us had an intent to retrench people or to give them pink slips, right? This is, as you rightly said, and we all commonsensically have heard this word, unprecedented. This is the first time that we're all pushed and thrown into a situation where there is no visible solution. So what each one of us is adapting is to, again, the cliched word called the new normal. So what you need to do is take up examples. So for example, at this point in time, I do not envisage in Assemblage to give pink slips in the near future. We are engaging each one of them. There is because the population is smaller, right? It's a couple of hundred people.
280 seats, 300 seats, or 400?
That's right. So it's about a couple of hundred people, so it's easier to handle. But you're right in terms of saying that it's not only media. It is going to be manufacturing. It is going to be the information technology. There is going to be a layoff of a volume of people. All right. We are in it for a long haul. This is not a short-term, pandemic that we are witnessing, right? So therefore, there are going to be, I wouldn't call it bloodbath. I'm not too certain of this. I'm not able to visualize if people are going to get into what is called the streets and going to killing
No, I didn't mean that.
massacre.
I meant
Yeah, yeah,
the layoff bloodbath, because in the
yeah.
US, unemployment is up to unprecedented figures. In the US, in India, and the laborers, the daily wage laborers are not earning enough. So the animation industry has provided employment to people from, a lot of the studios have taken people from smaller towns, rural India, who've come in, and they provided careers, and they live together in chummeries. 4 or 5 young people live together. They share accommodation, and I definitely think I've seen studios being under pressure because money will be delayed, payments will be delayed across. So how is this sector going to sustain, and what is the solution around it? I mean, I know that some people will actually follow people. I know that some people ask them to work without pay until the economy recovers, until cash flows start coming in. It's not that I'm an entrepreneur myself. I don't want to tell people to go away for a while, but I'd rather pay people rather than not pay them, and rather than be transparent.
No, as I said, there is no one right approach or one right solution. There used to be a serial in Hindi called Ghar Ghar Ki Kahani.
Sure.
So it's going to be a story for each household. When we all have had the experience of flying in an aircraft, and the one standing instruction is, when the oxygen masks fall, please cover yourself and live, so that you can then give it to your baby or your neighbor to take care. So it is critical at this point in time that we follow those instructions. It is a standard operating procedure. We would have heard it 200 times. We have flown 200 times. We take things for granted, but it is critical, whether it's the government, whether it's an individual, whether it's a head of the family, it's critical that we take care of ourselves first before we take care of the person next to us and whom we love so nearly and dearly. So there is no standard, and the only standard thing that you have to follow is to cover and save yourself and protect yourself.
No, but there are countries like America, which is protecting its smaller sector, Canada, which is protecting its smaller sector. So should the animation industry, which provides employment to how many people? 300,000? Or is that too high a figure?
No, possible across.
Education.
That's right. It's possible. But I mean, I think the government of India, again, it's a very relative thing. It's not politicking. I think the government of India is doing whatever it can from the corpuses it has. There are, restructuring of the fiscal, support, be it moratoriums, be it, ad hoc enhancement of limits that they've given to the existing working capital, and not charging interest for the time. So it will have a ripple effect in terms of your cost of finance eventually. But the fact remains,
you take a moratorium for 3 months, you pay 6 months extra EMIs.
That's right. So it's a question of, do I need the oxygen now, or do I save the oxygen for 3 months later? Do I want to die in it? Right. So the logic is going to be, you got to balance it out. And it's now becoming a level playing field for all of us. This COVID has really put, we're all, our feet are on the ground. So there is no, one of my sincere suggestions to most artists would be, this is a great time to step down and, have this little air that I'm an artist. We are first human beings, right? We need to love each other. We need to reciprocate between the relationships. It's not about employer and employee. It is the kind of work that we all need to focus on rather than getting on a high ground. So we're all going to kind of come down to realities, and it's going to be a level playing field for everybody across the globe, not necessarily, clients who give us contracts. Their feet are on the ground because they need to deliver. They need support. They need oxygen. So there is a new paradigm change that is happening in terms of humanitarian relationships, and what is also happening as a learning curve is, boss, I have to earn my money. It is my household that I need to protect, and therefore I'm going to negotiate and make sure that I'm so it's not about poaching who's giving more. It's about what is it that I can. So things are going to change. There are going to be. It's going to take time, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But yes, bleeding is going to continue. We need to cover our wound. We need to use more Dettol in terms of washing our hands and healing ourselves. But we are left with no choice at
Yeah,
all
and
at
you'll
this
have
point.
to work with half your employees in the office. The other half will be at home as per the norms when we do start again. And then you'll have to have sanitation. You'll have to have infrared thermometers. You'll have to have your, cleaning the tables regularly through the day as per the norms when we do start, which I think anyway is going beyond May 18th. I expect my gut is we'll start somewhere around end June, mid June. We will not start before that.
More or less right. I mean, as I said, nobody can predict. My thought process is more like July.
Yes.
When the monsoon really hits its peak, and then you have other challenges for even commuting and traveling. On those times. But I'm looking at July. So and again, we will be stupid if we don't prepare ourselves that there is going to be a recurrence. There is going to be a resurge of
Absolutely.
this.
Because the
So
Spanish flu in the second wave, there were more casualties than in the first one.
exactly. So we are in it for a long haul, and very interestingly, what I was reading today is typically, vaccine takes about 4-5 years of research, and there is a little WhatsApp going around saying that everybody is trying to crack it in the next 1 or 2 years. And then again, India is seen as a potential to manufacture volumes of that. So is vaccine going to be the permanent solution? It's going to take time, because it is a permanent solution when it came to smallpox or some of the other, more deadlier diseases on this earth. But it's going to take time. So there is going to be, in fact, very interesting article today I was reading in Financial Express or Indian Express, one of those news, that a coronavirus will never die ever from a human. It's going to be a part of your flu. So what will happen is we will continue living with this COVID-19 for the rest of our lives, but it becomes a curable, a common flu, cold, cough kind of a stuff, right? So that's it's going to continue. But what, as you rightly said, the challenge is going to be the next 1-2 years, because it is going to keep resurfacing. There are going to be hitting human lives. There is going to be sadness. There is going to be panic in terms of shutting shops and closing shops and schools. This is going to continue for a little while.
So, do you see the animation sector in India being able to be able to go through this? Do you see studios in India? Indian studios are dependent. A lot of them are doing outsourcing work, either for other Indian studios, larger studios, or for international studios, or for Indian studios who got work from international and who passed it on to them. So you have those, the chain which is there. So do you see, let's say, 40% of the studios shutting shop, or do you see 20%, 30%? Because it's a challenging situation, where people are not able to pay rents in certain cases.
So though this is going to be a long haul challenge that we want to face from a health perspective, I think from a business perspective, I think it's difficult to peg a figure, it's 30% or 40% or 60%, but what I can see, and which is visibly noticeable, is every model is changing. The distribution model is changing, right? Now, theaters are going to remain closed.
Till October.
But if you see Universal Studios, when they kind of released Trolls World Tour through a paid video on demand, they collected $100 million in 3 weeks. And Trolls, the first movie, also collected approximately $100 million in 3 weeks. So people didn't go to theater, and there is still, instead of a box office revenue, there is a paid video on demand revenue, right? So which means if there is a model which is going to kind of earn revenues, there is going to be a need for more content, right? So, and the valuations are going over the roof when it comes to, Netflix valuation a few weeks ago. So the need for content both domestically. So yeah, you're right. What is going to happen is there is going to be taking advantage of what is called this cost arbitrage.
Sure.
So what customers in the United States or not in the European space and North American space were willing to pay a slightly higher premium would now try and arbitrage that and probably come to countries like India with more work, because a penny saved is penny earned, right? So I see more work.
So you see animation studios, what do you call it? earning, do you see proliferating? Do you see them making more money? Do you see them, because my view is that the cash flow situation is going to hurt a lot right now for the next 3 to 6 months.
Correct. So there are two things over here. One is the cash flow, which is a typical problem even for large corporates. So there's a cash flow issue and there's a revenue issue. Now, from a pure revenue issue, I see a geometric growth. Cash flow issue is always going to be a challenge because though there is a geometric growth in revenues, your cash flows are going to be based on milestone deliveries, right? So then the question comes in terms of how do we intelligently adapt ourselves to scalability? How are we going to scale? I mean, are we going to then say that we need to go find more technology companies to provide the internet bandwidth? But the opportunity exists because all those big boys there are going to look at saving costs. And therefore, I see a humongous potential of the kind of talent that India has nurtured over the last couple of decades, right? So it shows that we are like Chico Bonbon. I mean, purely from a preschool show, I think it's going to be talk of the town as far as Netflix is concerned for some time, because for a preschool show, the acting, the look and feel, the design, it's brilliant stuff, right? So there is going to be immense work coming onto our lap. It is up to us whether we can lap it up or not. So we have to remain positive. We have to go through the struggle. We have to take those temporary cuts of 40%, 50%, 60% for us to earn 100% back at a shorter time than otherwise.
Fantastic. So, you've been talking to your colleagues in different countries. You're like one encyclopedia of the animation world because of the kind of work you've done over the past 35 years or 30 years, 35 years in animation.
Yeah, about 3 decades. Yeah, that's right.
3 decades. Yeah. So, how is the US, the animation industry taking to it? How is the Canadian? How is the Chinese? I mean, the Korean, the European, France, and other countries, Germany. How are they dealing with this COVID phenomena? The studios I'm talking about.
I think there is so if you look at any organization or any country, you will find that 5% of the people are the guys who make things happen. 95% of the people are passengers. We just go with the stream, or we just go with the crowd and we follow the herd, right? So while there has been economic cut downs in terms of budgets and so on and so forth, but I don't think the quantum of work has reduced as far as animation is concerned. The quantum of work would have reduced in manufacturing cars and other industries, but in the animation space, the quantum of work hasn't. So if you really look at the North Americans, including Canada, or European countries like France and Italy, so like any business, there has been what is called as an introduction stage, a growth stage, and a decline stage, right? So even this COVID has gone through the early stages, the peak stages, and flattening stages. So if you see countries like Italy is bouncing back, countries like France is going still through struggles, but countries like Canada and United States, in spite of the volume of the hits that they have had because of COVID-19, yeah. So but I don't think it has stopped. So the guys have begun work from home. There have been storyboards that are being addressed. There are voiceovers happening at home. So there's no more studio recording, right? So there are voiceovers happening at home. There are artists, designers working at home. So the workload, because unless we get the pre-production, we cannot get into production, right? So the workflow over the last 2 to 3 weeks has not slowed down. We are getting enough work to produce. It is up to us to scale.
So you believe that they're not, but they're getting help. They're getting support from their governments. Each of these.
Yes.
Yes. Whereas in India,
they're getting immense.
Yeah.
But Anil, that's been the story for the last 2 decades I've been in the animation industry, right? So Canada got its tax subsidies, and the European guys got it, and except the United States. So most of these governments have.
The United States is giving funding to the smaller companies because a lot of small businesses have shut down. That's
right. So there have been these kind of economic handholding. But in our case, one of the reasons I believe that we didn't get any sensible support from the government is largely because our contribution as a sector, which is visual effects, as services work in the animation, gaming, and we are still small in numbers. as compared to industries like other mature industries like car manufacturing or pharmaceuticals or financial services or information technology and so on, or farming and stuff like that. So our industry and sector is relatively, it's only what, 2 decades old in terms of actually exporting work, prior to which the export component was negligible. So even if you were to compare our export contributions or our earnings contributions from coffers to the government in terms of taxes is much lower.
But employment-wise, we are large, right? Employment-wise, we provide employment, which otherwise there's no outlet. What do these artists do?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. So the shift that is going to happen, therefore, is the employees now actually, I see it differently. I see that they have potential to earn much more than the salaries that they were earning, because they have the benefit and the freedom now to work as passionately as they want to, since they are very passionate guys and artists, to even work on a weekend or a Saturday, Sunday. How do I catch up for the 60 days that I've lost? Can I kind of earn back by working on those Saturdays and Sundays and still contributing? Because it is only every delivery that he does is going to earn for him. So there is, I see it more positively that the potential to earn working from home actually enhances, because you're saving a hell of a lot of time in terms of a commute, which is on an average 4 hours. The fatigue levels, you're in touch, except not physically, but you're in touch with your clients and your supervisors through video conferencing. So you're not learning the skills. You have the freedom to go onto the net and do courses, and many of them are available for even free. There's a course called Coursera, which is beautiful, right? So each one of us are trying to kind of evolve and indulge and learn. So I actually see this as and I want to tell this to every artist, whether it's 300,000 or 400,000, right? Guys, each one of you have the potential, because every such situation gives you an opportunity. And here is an opportunity to not earn that average 50,000, 60,000, but to double it if you're willing to. If you're really an artist and as passionate, there is work for you and there is earning for you.
Fantastic. I mean, you're looking at things differently. When I speak to other studio and lobbying groups, they tell us that they would like the government to do some handholding, give some support. But you view things differently. I'll go on to another topic. What have your friends, in different countries been saying? How have the kids been reacting? The kids have been cooped up at home. In Spain, just a few days ago, they were allowed to go out to play for an hour a day. They were so liberated. Did consumption go up for kids viewing? Has anyone shared anything with you? Netflix or any of the other OTT streamers or the broadcasters who you've been in touch with?
Yeah, we are constantly in touch with all our customers across the globe. What is interesting is, I think the adults have been less matured than the children. I haven't seen children coming out of the buildings and playing. I mean, they're so disciplined. It was surprising. They're actually sitting at homes and doing online education and, learning. I haven't seen a child across any of the buildings, but I see a lot of adults who have been told and warned to, they're walking around the streets, not adhering to any of these standard instructions. So the kids have really kind of shown immense maturity during these times. And of course, the content volume has boomed. Okay. I mean, that is visible in terms of number of subscribers of any of the OTTs, be it Disney Plus or be it Netflix or be it any of these OTT platforms or streamer platforms. The subscriptions have increased. So much so that there is significant business strategies happening, right? So look at the opportunity. So Facebook and Reliance are looking at a new opportunity. Skydance, John Lasseter has gone and acquired. So Eros and STX so there are newer opportunities that are kind of coming in. So each one of them globally, when I speak to them, they very singularly see that, hey, Max, we will not only get out of it, we get out of it healthy and well from an economic perspective.
So, actually, you kind of, have they shared with you whether viewing has gone up amongst kids?
Yes, it is visible. It is visible. In fact, just as a teaser, I sent this Chico Bonbon teaser to family and friends, saying that it's coming on May 8th. They all saw the trailer and said, Max, we're just waiting for it because they're wanting to consume more. So the kids are watching content. Many of them are still repeat because animation production cycles are much longer than probably live action production cycles. But if you see the announcement by each of these OTTs and streamers, they've all announced a slate, the line of content coming in, and it's coming in every month. So the subscription has gone up because I'm sure the parents want the children to also be occupied. All right. So the consumption on children's content has gone up without a doubt. Even in India, we have seen probably Disney Plus going and taking 3 or 4 more new content from Maya, in terms of newer shows and newer. So there is consumption happening, right? Therefore, they're looking for newer stuff.
Fantastic. So now I'm going to ask you a question which is going to be about your experience. You're amongst the most experienced and connected animation executives in the world of animation in India and in the world of animation financing also. That helped you emerge from the wreckage of Crest to set up Assemblage, which today has done work for some of the leading studios worldwide. Now, how did you build these connections? How did you maintain them? And how have your connections helped you? Also talk about your journey.
Well, I played a significant role in building Crest, and I built it very passionately, like it was my own company. I believed it was. It's unfortunate there are companies which collapse, but what I did during my learning of my early days in Crest, and probably being the first guy to open the doors of outsourcing in the CGI animation stuff, be it television, be it feature films, or be it DVDs. So I had the pleasure and the privilege of opening each one of these verticals or each one of these segments, right? And across each of this, I think one of the things that helped me is integrity, honesty, sincerity, commitment. So delivering on time. So there are 3 or 4 things that I never went back. One is having agreed on a price. I never ever went back to a client saying, look, you know what, there's an overage, therefore you got to pay me more. Or I would never delay the deliveries, which is unbearable. There were technical delays, but there were never a show that we missed. So when I re-engaged to be an entrepreneur, to set up my own initiative, which is Assemblage, all of them had this, what is called as a trust factor. That look, be it a completion bond company, be it customers, and I began this business again with my customers who first gave me the business to begin. So new customers have come along the way over the last 6 years that Assemblage has been in existence, but it was the customers whom I had built this relationship and trust, because there is no point, and that's a value system that you grow with, right? There's no point lying. If you're in a problem, a person across the table is willing to understand the problem and try and find a solution to help you come out of the problem, rather than if you say, no, there's no problem and I'll solve it, and you're not able to solve it. So it was immense confidence the clients had. And when I approached them to engage myself into doing business and being an entrepreneur, they always believed I was an entrepreneur, even at Crest. So that trust kind of only continued.
Yeah. So how did you maintain the relationships, in the interim between Crest winding up, you setting up Assemblage? I think there was a gap of a few years. If I'm
No. There was a gap of
a year and a half.
So
December 2013, you set up.
June 2013 is when I resigned.
Okay.
July I got relieved. December 2013 I set up Assemblage. It was hardly 5-6 months.
Okay. So, but maintaining the relationships, how do you maintain them? Do you network a lot? Do you move around a lot? How do you build your network?
Oh, I personally believe that apart from just being so I'm not a very friendly social media guy. I personally believe it's an old school is the touch and feel. I still believe in physically traveling, sitting across and looking into the eyes and talking to my customers. Because that wins, that shows the kind of the confidence that you can kind of demonstrate. I have not hesitated in terms of, even if it is a prospect, I don't wait till that prospect gets converted. So the moment I see a potential, I physically make sure that I'm in touch with them, even if I don't convert it into a contract. But some of those that I've lost earlier have come back in the future date saying that, you know what, they have grown and they need more. They'll come back to me. So I personally believe from old school that I need to physically be in touch. So I have extensively made myself available when it comes to travel.
So which are the markets, the exhibition sector, which we've been so used to, that is going to change. NSE is off. MIP-TV didn't happen. MIPCOM could happen, could not happen. We don't know whether it's going to, there's a possibility because we have to figure out in the next 2 months. Though, of course, sales have started. I'm selling MIPCOM. What do you see, how do you see yourself networking going forward?
So it's very clear on certain basic things that you learn in your life. So the markets are essential for networking. The markets are essential. Any industry, be it finance, be it automobiles, you've got to be physically there at the marketplace because you are able to touch more number of people, right? Physically over the 3 days and 4 days that you're there. But what I've always believed is in those 3 days, you would probably meet, let's say, 20 to 40 guys a day, and therefore a couple 100 guys plus. But all the 100 is not going to do business with you.
Absolutely.
Because it is idiotic to think that just because you've had a coffee or toasted a wine, you're going to do business with it, right? So, and then you need to do what is called as actually doing what is called as prospecting. Now, prospecting, and then you select maybe half a dozen of them. They could be in Germany, they could be in Paris, they could be in Canada, they could be in Toronto, they could be in Los Angeles, New York. I've always made it a point that post-market, your significant investment lies in the market for networking, to be there, to show presence, but you have to go to them, indulge in terms of discussing your strengths vis-a-vis what is available in the marketplace globally, be it China or Korea or wherever. And you have to win that confidence and trust. So I've always believed in that approach. So it's very simple. The moment you have your goal clear, then your objectives and activities become very clear. For example, if the goal is to make a house, then the objective is to make money. And then you break it down into activities saying that I'm going to work part-time, I'm going to work full-time, I'm going to make my wife work. So the activities convert into objectives of making money to achieve the goal of buying the house. So if that, it's not going to, the timing might kind of get delayed, but you're clear in terms of logically break down as to what is it that you really kind of, like, for example, I cannot go today at this point in time, service 40 clients.
Sure.
So there's no point chasing 40 clients. But can I convert 6 clients who will do repeat business with me every year is the goal that I would rather work on. So each one of us evolve our own strategies and our own objectives.
No, I was talking about going forward. My question was, it would be lovely to get those insights. What happens to the markets going forward? Do we see them continuing in the form they are? Do we see them adapting to online, offline, physical presence? What do you see happening? You've been, thanks to
So
COVID,
physical presence,
traveling is going to be restricted for a long time.
Yeah. Physical presence is going to be kind of, it's going to be not possible in the near future, right? So it is going to be through such calls, video calls, which never happened as frequently as it is happening now earlier, right? You would go to a marketplace and then you would go onto an email or a WhatsApp, but you never had these physical conversations here through these video chats earlier. So physical travel is going to be a challenge, but the most interesting thing that one needs to hold to win is execution. If you can execute a transaction based on your commitment and understanding and perception of the person on the other side, there is no reason why you will either not get a reference or get a repeat business.
Yeah. Final words, what are the lessons we can take out of COVID and, the new normal, the working in the new way of working? Any final words to artists, to studio owners, to your clients, to government, to colleagues, to, all of us, final words?
Oh, okay. So to the government, I would say thank you very much. I think we have, lockdown is very important. Human lives are important, and they have been not visibly supportive for our sector, but I think they've been reasonably supportive for our sector. To my colleagues in the industry, not necessarily, my colleagues at Assemblage, I would indulge in saying that this is a great time to watch great animated movies, because it is all about storytelling, it's all about acting, it's all about lighting, it's all about camera moves. So there's so much to learn. So I would indulge in them watching as many times, because there is so much that you can learn, let's say watching a Finding Nemo or whatever it is, right? So there are various aspects. I would also indulge them to read as much as they can. And there is enough information, there are enough courseware, free courseware available to enhance skills. Um, you know, uh, of course, as I said, I spoke to all those couple of hundred colleagues of mine, and some of them were indulging in cooking, which is also a nice piece of art. But so as long as you're not negative, so
Yeah.
as long as my suggestion would be, don't be negative. It's not going to be, it's going to be a long haul. There are, real challenges we need to face. We have to have our feet on the ground. We need to have hope. And hope is the only positive thing that we can really kind of aspire right now and believe in. So my suggestions would be to read, to watch films, to indulge in skills enhancements, and of course, since there is a lot of time that you'll be saving, since you'll not be commuting from work, from place of home to work, engage yourselves in being more passionate in delivering more volumes, because you can actually do it, because the fatigue levels will be lower.
Sure. Thank you. Anything else? Well, but it's been wonderful chatting with you. Wonderful listening to a different perspective. Other people have told me they'd like more government doles, government handouts. You're a person who says it's okay. We can do it. We can make it, and that gives us a lot of hope and heart that this animation industry in India is here for the long haul, and we're going to conquer. Thank you very much, Max.
You will. Thank you,
Anil.
Anil. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
Thank you.